Hey, we are talking about nutrition today. That is our next outcome for class. And it really is chapter 8. So we're not going through the book in any kind of order. If you're really curious, chapter 8 is starting on page, 173 and 174. So here's what the first page of it actually looks like. Nutrition is something you've heard about for a really long time ago. You may have had Marty Moose come in and talk to you as elementary students who talk to you, about nutrition. So kind of here's my deal for you. I want to give you a little bit of history. It's something that's been around really for decades. It is a government-sponsored program. The one we use today is called ChooseMyPlate.gov, where they give us recommendations for what we eat on a daily basis, trying to help us make good food choices. So we're going to start with what are our food groups for nutrition? I'm going to guess that most of you know these. We have grains, and we have fruits, vegetables, protein, and dairy. I will warn you that I do definitely use some words a little bit interchangeably. I often call grains and carbohydrates kind of the same thing, and that's not necessarily true, because a lot of vegetables are super high in carbohydrates. Protein and our meat group, probably use those a little bit interchangeably as well. However, this may be one that you're used to seeing. It was around for a long time. Basically, the government usually updates these about once every decade. Lobbyists and nutritionists and different people weigh in on what they look like. So there is that piece of information for you. This one was around for a really long time, right? Grains, fruits, vegetables, protein, dairy, and then it had fats up here in the top. All right. They took this one away because it just gave these huge groupings on here, like bread and cereal, 6 to 11 servings a day. That's a lot of grains. Vegetables, 3 to 5, fruits, 2 to 4, milk, yogurt, and cheese was 2 to 3, and meat was 2 to 3, and then fats, oils, and sweets, they said use sparingly. Well, here's what really was happening. So they were saying, what kind of lifestyle do you live? And we got to choose, hey, am I sedentary, or am I super active, an athlete that's very competitive, training, the 2-a-day kind of stuff that you guys are used to. And so we had these. All right, well, here's the deal. We overestimate what our activity level is. Plain and simple. Some of us wear watches that track for us. The goal is 10,000 steps a day for most people, that we are moving, just to encourage us to move our bodies. All right. So here's the example that I always use, and sorry, Mom, but she would go for a walk and then sit at an office desk. Is that a very active lifestyle? Truthfully, it's pretty sedentary. So if she was picking numbers off of here, should she pick the higher numbers or the lower numbers? I'm hoping that you said she should pick the lower numbers. All right. So there wasn't necessarily a whole lot of guidance as far as where we needed to follow. It was left to our discretion, which we prefer that, but it didn't always work. All right. So that one was kind of done away with. They modified it into this. And this is one you probably at least saw in grade school. Definitely an emphasis on moving our body. If you were watching Nickelodeon or Disney as an elementary age student, you probably saw the Get Active, go outside and play for 30 minutes a day ad campaigns on TV, and saw this one. So again, there's still all of our bars for grains and vegetables and fruit, dairy, and our protein groups. So they were just really making it more visual that we need to be active and moving. All right. And then when the Obamas were in the White House, Michelle Obama came up with something that was more graphically minded for us to really choose how we are eating. And you guys remember that her background is she is an attorney, not a nutritionist. However, that being said, you can think whatever you want to think. I'm not having a political discussion with you. This is what she came up with. This is a coloring page, not actually the colorful version of this. And this is what you would have seen really for a lot of years at this point. And so they're saying if this is our meal, breakfast, lunch, or dinner, we need to have all of our 5 food groups, and it has them divided up in quadrants, and our dairy is a circle over here. We should realize that dairy may not be a glass of milk. All right. So that's kind of where it's coming from. And this is handy. If you are not into nutrition and you're thinking like, hey, maybe I should eat better so that I can do better at whatever it is I want to do, it is definitely a wonderful, wonderful place to start. So you will see this again, promise, on a test. All right. So let's talk about like what's in your book a little bit so that you know. Like I said, it starts on page 173. There it talks about digestion and calories and what we need. And you have to remember that these are like our recommendations from the government. All right. So there's definitely some differences based on who we are, and also for male or female. Boys have a higher metabolism than girls do, so girls do not get as much food as boys. So I'm super sorry. Your book also talks about each different food group and why it is important. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on that for you today, but I wanted you to know that it's in here. Even fat is important, all right, because it aids in digestion, because it carries nutrients that we need into our body. So it is important. It's also important in elimination of waste. And there is charts of vitamins and minerals, which we will definitely look into later, just not today, and a food label. These are super important. We're definitely going to spend time talking about like why we use them and how we use them. You know, I'm the one who will pick up your bottle of or package and read it. More on like the actual Choose My Plate one is on page 188. And there's a trick on page 189 about serving sizes. All right. So we will also talk about that. Eating in college. Like there's just a ton of stuff in here. Organic and vegan diets, vegetarian. So lots and lots of stuff. Technology, intolerances. They use technology when they package our food. So even just bagged lettuce, which frankly, it's a great cheat. It's a hack. It makes it super easy to get a salad without spending very much time prepping it, right? You open the bag. But they use a lot of technology in that. So food safety is a big deal. We have to stay healthy when we eat. And that has to do with how we handle and store our food products. All right. So, but my main emphasis for today, other than a little history, is literally the 5 food groups and what a serving size looks like. And here's what you need to know. I don't care which kind of like eating plan you use, because we've all heard all these different things. Keto, Whole30, Paleo, Weight Watchers, like whatever it is. There's like tons and tons, clean eating, whatever. We have like standard measuring sizes of foods. And across the board, they're pretty consistent for what we consider a serving size. So we're going to use the ones from actually Choose My Plate. If you do not want to like take all the notes, you can find them on choosemyplate.gov. So what happens is currently, I was just on there today, when you open it up, there is like a little graphic and then a bar, and underneath it, there's circles that have like an image for each kind of food. So you can click on which one it is. Today we're going to do dairy first, and that one you can click on it. As you're scrolling through, there's a link for like what counts, and you can find information in there. All right, so I'm not hiding that from you. That's where it is. So bottom line, dairy, first off, boys and girls both need 3 cups a day. And I'm pretty sure that's our whole lifespan, 3 cups a day, once you reach, like childhood, not infants or toddlers. So 3 cups a day. I don't remember what I was going to say, but it's 3 cups a day for each, boys and girls. It doesn't change. All right. Oh, and why do we actually want dairy in our diet? So 2 huge things in the world of dairy is first that we get calcium from it. And you guys, calcium is what we use it for strong bones and strong teeth. All right. And also living in a climate where we have winter a lot, they actually add vitamin D into particularly milk and milk substitute products. And that helps keep us healthy because our body will make vitamin D naturally if we are out in the sunshine. All right. And that was a huge problem years ago. And you would hear about kids getting like rickets. It's not something we hear about today because we get it through fortified foods, which means they've added it in. All right. So let's just talk about plain old milk for a second. A lunchroom carton of milk is 1 cup of milk. If you think about it, that's not a whole lot of milk. Few swallows and you have that down. All right. So USDA Choose My Plate recommendation is that we all drink skim milk. You choose what works for you. You do your research and make your own wise decisions on it. I just want you to know that like a 1 cup glass of milk is really small. It's not a whole lot. Like I said, 1 lunchroom carton. Remember that if it's 1%, 2%, or 4%, you have a higher fat content in it. So you're just getting more fat in your milk. If you only drink chocolate or strawberry or whatever it is, you are adding a lot of sugar into your diet because those flavorings contain a lot of sugar. I'm not saying don't ever have chocolate milk. And I know I have swimmers in here who are going to be like, but we use it as a recovery drink. And you're right, use it. It actually is a wonderful recovery drink, not bashing that at all. But if the only way you ever consume dairy is by adding a ton of Hershey syrup in there, you are also adding a ton of sugar to your diet. And that's something that we need to minimize if we're trying to be healthy. All right. So there is that one. So 1 cup of milk is 1 cup of dairy. If you're using evaporated milk for some reason, like if there's a shortage or it's just significantly cheaper for your family to use it that way, if you're using evaporated milk, a half of a cup of that becomes a cup of milk. You may be diluting it down to where it would be a 1-to-1 ratio though. Like that just depends on how you're using it. Yogurt is something that is big in like the diet industry because it's less calories. I want to encourage you to actually read the carton. All right. Once upon a time, they came like this and you like pop the top off and you ate it. And today we see them in plastic where we peel the top off. They used to be 8 ounce. Okay. Today they're 6 ounce containers, but 1 cup of yogurt is a cup of dairy. Now, think Chobani flips, right? Those are pretty popular, pretty tasty. They have Greek yogurt and you take it and you fold that little part of the container over into the rest and you stir it up and you eat it. Those mix-ins are adding you a lot of calories. Greek yogurt is probably definitely the healthy option that is pushed right now, but they're saying low fat is better. And also, you have to be aware that you are also getting some protein out of it. In the world of Choose My Plate, we still just count it as a dairy. All right. If we're using other options, then that's not always the case. Greek yogurt is produced differently and it's like double strained. It's thicker and it also has a little bit more bitter taste. If you cannot do that, but you still want yogurt and you're still trying to make a better choice, there are some like sugar-free or super low sugar-free options that do taste good. And there's a lot of different flavorings. Little life hack for you. You can use plain yogurt as a substitute for sour cream and save yourself some fat. Honestly, you don't really even notice the difference, particularly on like a baked potato. So it is an option for you. Let's talk about cheeses for a minute. So if you like cheese that is the individually wrapped like Kraft singles and you put them in your grilled cheese sandwich, I'm going to guess you like it because it melts really, really well. All right, so really here's the deal. That cheese has a pretty decent amount of oil in it, which is why it melts and gives us this wonderful, stringy, gooey consistency of a grilled cheese sandwich that we all probably really like. All right. Not your best choice at all when it comes to cheese. It's a processed cheese. It's not a really natural product. Yeah, they do let us count it towards the dairy, but I would really, really encourage you to not use it. All right. Other stuff, they like slices of cheese. It kind of depends on where you look. But 2 slices of cheese, the kinds that have like the parchment paper between them, or they just come in the big block and you can just peel them off. 2 of these give you a cup of dairy. And if you're trying to do the grilled cheese and you really want that ooey gooey goodness, I would strongly recommend using Havarti. It tastes really good. It's just white instead of yellow, so you have a difference in your color. But it gives you that nice gooey texture. It doesn't have a super strong flavor, so it's not like you're eating, like blue cheese or something. Super good choices. There are so many kinds of cheeses on the market, and our local grocery store has a lot of options for us to choose from. Many of them melt really well. Obviously, cheddar is not our best melter, but we have others who do melt well. Havarti is the go-to at my house. So you've got that one. 1.5 ounces of hard cheese. So think like a cheese stick is going to give you about a cup of dairy. Shredded cheese. And I know this sounds kind of crazy, but if you think about it, 1/3 of a cup, so that's not a whole lot, is 1 cup of dairy. You would easily use 1/3 of a cup of shredded cheese if you were going home from school and you're like, oh, hey, there's tortillas and shredded cheese. I'm just going to make a little quesadilla for a snack. You would easily be able to get that 1/3 of a cheese in there, that 1/3 of a cup of shredded, and have a really good quesadilla that you're doing whatever with, right? So it doesn't take very much. 1/3 of a cup on a salad would actually be it would be a lot. You would get a piece of cheese in probably almost every bite of your salad, particularly if you had a nice big salad. If you're trying to do a little bitty side salad, you would have way too much cheese. But something for you to think about. If you're using ricotta cheese, and think lasagna, that's the one thing I've used that one for a lot. I know it's in some other stuff as well. 1/2 cup of ricotta cheese equals a cup of dairy. I'm not really sure if people actually just would take it and eat it kind of like cottage cheese. I'm guessing that you could. It's not something that I've ever experimented with. All right, but 1/2 cup of that gives us a cup of dairy. You have to remember it takes a lot of milk to make a little bit of cheese. That's why it doesn't take a whole lot of cheese to get our 1 cup of dairy. All right, the other one, ricotta cheese. Not ricotta, cottage cheese. I'm going to guess some of you put pepper on it. Some of you probably put peaches in it. Some of you are like, I am not eating that. And some of you are like, oh yeah, I just like it plain. And I don't know why this one works this way. But 2 cups of cottage cheese equals 1 cup of dairy. That's a lot of cottage cheese. So if you were to buy like the smaller cartons, it's pretty much that whole thing. It's a lot. You would have to read a 16-ounce container of cottage cheese would be 2 cups. Choose my plate. Let's just count desserts towards some of our food groups. Here is my big concern with that is, again, you add so much sugar into your diet by using these as your way to get dairy. All right. 1 cup of pudding equals 1 cup of milk. So the reality is pudding is mostly milk. You add a thickener and sugar and whatever your flavoring is to get it. All right. But it's a lot of sugar. So keep in mind, if that's how you're going about getting your dairy, you're also getting a lot of sugar. Frozen yogurt, 1 cup is 1 cup. Ice cream, 1.5 cups of ice cream equals 1 cup of dairy. But here's what you need to know. Again, the sugar. If you are going to have ice cream, I would strongly encourage you to have the frozen yogurt instead. But plain vanilla has the least amount of calories, right? If Rocky Road is your favorite, you just added the nuts and the chocolate and the marshmallows, right? You want, I don't even know, some kind of Ben & Jerry's that has all the other little stuff in it. You're adding a pile of calories to get your dairy. Not a best choice. I'm not saying don't eat ice cream. I mean, it's a treat. It's enjoyable. But I don't think you should have it with every meal. Probably not even once a day. Could we go with like maybe, I mean, realistically, once a month? But maybe for some of you, it's like once a week. Just think about it. What are you really getting out of this? And is it really meeting your need to fuel your body? Which is what the purpose of food is really to fuel our bodies to do the things that we want to do. All right, so other things that we have on the market. Soy milk. Rice milk, almond milk, oat milk, coconut milk, goat's milk. I'm sure I have forgotten some. Lactate milk. Lactate milk is literally made for people who are lactose intolerant, and it has the lactose enzyme already like dealt with in it so that it does not give a lactose intolerant person the like side effects that you would get otherwise. So that's the story with that one. The other ones are all different milk substitutes. Some people choose them because they prefer them, because they feel like it's a better food source. Some because they are lactose intolerant. Whatever the case might be, bottom line, goat's milk still is coming from a mammal, but sometimes people who are lactose intolerant can still have the goat's milk. All right, you can buy it canned. And I know there are places where you can get it fresh. I just don't know anybody locally, but I haven't asked. They all count as a dairy because they are adding calcium and the vitamin D and other stuff to them. I know they're not really milk. They're made from nuts or from grains or whatever it is. You can actually even learn to make them yourself. It is definitely something that takes some time, but it is something that you can do. They are a 1 cup to 1 cup ratio, just like the carton of lunchroom milk is 1 cup. 1 cup of any of the alternative milks are still 1 cup of dairy. Same if you want the flavors. You guys, they have them in eggnog and chocolate and strawberry and vanilla, original, sweetened, unsweetened. And just remember that you're changing your caloric count on those if they have other stuff added to them. There are some of them I've had and some of them I haven't had. Honestly, soy milk is not my jam. I don't particularly care for it unless it's chocolate. I do drink unsweetened coconut milk because of being lactose intolerant, and it works well. The almond milk, I do know that you can sub it in pretty successfully in recipes if that's something that you're looking for. So kind of a little rundown on dairy. I should tell you butter is fats, oils, and discretionary calories. Same with sour cream. Anything that's like just incredibly high fat based. Heavy whipping cream would be a fat. Half and half would be a fat. I'm trying to think like what other ones I have forgotten. Anyways, those would be fats that are discretionary calories and do not count towards your dairy allotment every single day. So I'm hoping that you wrote everything down because you will have to use these later to make meal plans. All right. Thank you.